Okay, great.
This other anime called Restaurant to Another World that was just like about it was cute. It was very sweet, but I'm like I'm looking for Food Wars. So that's kind of where I'm at with anime.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking around. We are back with Nerd Gaze. Our guests tonight are John H. Maher, like Bill Maher,
My
Yeah,
Maher. It was so hard.
yeah, you
um,
got it.
and Eric Vilas-Boas. Is that correct? Vilas-Boas.
That's right.
Hell
That's
yeah.
perfect.
Fuck yeah. And I was gone for just a moment, but tell me a little bit about what we were talking about during the break. We were talking about Tempopo. We were talking about how Akira Kurosawa wasn't given his justice or his due as an auteur filmmaker. That's just some of what we were talking about, right?
yeah.
Perfect.
We
Yeah.
we got a little lost there with a lot of
A
that.
little all over the place.
Well, it started with talking about like samurai movies and then like sort of like the irony and the criticism of imperialism and samurai culture in like Seven Samurais or Harikiri. And then yeah, and then where did we go?
Well, we went to
I mean,
Tampopo
at that
and Food
point,
We've been
Wars.
at
talking
that point,
about Food Wars for a large part of this. Like,
at that
and
point,
why
we
it's so
kind of
relevant.
got lost.
Yeah, at that
Yeah.
point I just get excited about Food Wars.
Well, it's important to mention
Oh,
that you're having this very much like an introductory phase to anime, whereas like you were very much
Yeah.
you were really into anime like culture, right? Like what was your introduction to it, Rivka? And I'd love to hear it from John and Eric as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is with anime, so I've been reading comics since I was like 14. And I remember like people like I remember like being near the manga section and there was sort of this like there were people who read comics and there were people who read manga and there was like a disconnect. And I didn't want to be like a lot of the stereotype of who read manga that wasn't like Japanese people themselves, but like the
Mhm.
stereotype in America was like a very specific kind of like it was like a specific kind of nerd that I wasn't ready to admit that I was. And so I was like, comics feel better because I'm reading like Batman and like to me I justified what I was reading. I was reading like a bunch of like stupid Frank Miller shit. It's fine. I have my own like
Whoa, stupid. Whoa.
whatever. Come on,
Oh,
Frank Miller.
I look, I'm not saying Frank Miller hasn't said some dumb shit. I'm just saying, like, there's some very good works of his,
I know. I was like a
pre
huge
2000.
yeah, I was reading pre 2000 Frank Miller Batman. And then like I basically and then whatever, and then I got into like Watchmen, I got into Sin City, all these things, whatever. But manga was always something that I was like, this makes me look like I'm soft. Like that's literally how I saw it. I know. I don't know who put that in my head, but I was like, this will make you look like you're one of those like kind of like it's a very specific type of nerd. And so I was like, okay, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. And so I did my whole like edgelord shit, and then eventually I started like opening up to more like the cuteness of like anime, right? And actually in quarantine, I've opened myself up completely to it. I started with watching Agretsuko on Netflix, which I love because I love metal and I also love like she's so cute. So Agretsuko, yeah, so I love Agretsuko, and then I got super not anime necessarily, but I got super into Studio Ghibli movies, like for the full thing. I was watching one like every day, like I got like the HBO Max, and basically when it all sort of like filtered into HBO Max, I was just like watching everything.
Mhm.
And then my friend was like, "You need to watch Food Wars," and I was like, "Okay." So it's all pretty recent for me.
Mhm.
And I'm sad that I've gone this long with like rejecting it or like pushing it away. Um, but I'm happy to be here now.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
And we're still integrating Kurt.
Oh, right.
Okay. Can so you still haven't like you haven't gotten on like the grimy side of like anime yet. Like I mean, like
No.
you have not dealt with like the like even like let's say Full Metal Alchemist, which I don't think is a grimy anime, but a little bit more blood, a little bit more like action adventure stuff. You haven't touched that.
And
Yet.
hell bent on breaking your heart too. I mean,
Yes,
let's be real. Like,
yes,
like
very
that
much
show
so.
wants to hurt you.
Yes,
Like,
that's all that it
real
cares
bad.
about.
Is that what got you
Yeah,
into it, John?
Like
like-
the trauma.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Dude,
Oh yeah,
it's really
I'm a-
good at it.
I'm a childhood trauma kid. Like I wanted to be slapped silly with that shit. Like yeah, 100%. Because
Yeah.
what else are you like watching that for? Like
Man,
I was 4 episodes in and I was like, yes, this is all I.
Well,
A welcome
I
to
think
Thai
Full
Ice
Metal
Tea
Alchemist-
in the chat. Thank you so much for stopping by. We're here with John Maher and Eric Vilas-Boas. We're talking about anime. Just
Eric,
greeting every person who
there.
comes into my chat.
excellent.
It's nice to be generous and thoughtful about people that come into your house. If they came into your house, you would say hello.
Hi, Ice-T, we love you. Shout out.
The virtual house.
Yes.
So Eric, like you were saying.
Yeah. Well, someone said earlier about like why else would you watch Full Metal Alchemist? And what I love about that show is there are so many reasons to love that show.
Yeah.
Like it goes all
That's
over
true.
the place. Like you got like really really poignant trauma stuff. You've got fucking amazing animation by like every animator.
Mhm.
Yutaka Nakamura, the king
Yeah.
action animator, worked on a little bit of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and then also worked on the original show, Full Metal
Yeah.
Alchemist.
Bones does a great job on that show.
So
like
good.
literally just like pumping out like still top tier.
So good.
The
Yeah.
key animation in particular is just really remarkable. And Eric, who am I thinking of who did work on Brotherhood specifically, who also worked on Bebop?
I think you're thinking of Yutaka Nakamura.
I think I am thinking of Nakamura. Yeah.
Like Yutaka Nakamura animated the first fight scene between Spike and Vicious in episode 1 of Bebop.
Whoa. There was no fight scene between
I'm sorry.
Spike and Vicious in episode 1 of
I'm
Bebop.
sorry,
You mean the
not-
first
not-
fight scene in general?
Spike and Asimov. I
Yeah.
misspoke.
Yeah.
Like,
That fight scene is
That fight
incredible.
scene's still like
It's
every
not
time
great.
just are like how could human beings do this?
Yeah,
like
the shaky cam.
the shot.
I mean, the movement.
Oh,
Like it's so good. It's so good. But like Full Metal Alchemist also has like romantic elements to it too. It's got like it's just so emotional.
Yeah.
It's such an emotional show. On like many different levels. Like and the it's existential. Like
Yeah, but
there's so many
but-
reasons to watch.
But Rivka, it'll beat you up. Like if
It'll beat you up.
Like
Yeah.
you only watch that anime if you want the pulp beaten out of you emotionally.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
it.
so here's the thing. So for context, I'm like a huge DC animation person. So I've been watching animation. I just like never like basically what happened was I was like, wow, I have nothing to watch because I'm heartbroken over Young Justice and blah blah blah. And then I don't know who told me. I think Tobias has been trying to get me to watch anime for like a long time.
I've been
Oh.
like I mean just like like if you like Young Justice, there is tons of Japanese animation out there
Yeah.
that like hits these same strides
Yeah.
a lot more constantly than what American animation like
Yes.
does. Not saying that people aren't trying in that field. It's just how the American
Right.
market is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's right, and you're right. And like at that point, I had watched basically every finished Batman animated series again, like rewatched Justice League all the way through, like watched every Batman animated, like every movie on that like every single one. Like I'm like, okay, I am run out of shit to watch.
It really
And
is the
so-
point. really is a point, right? Where you just like, if you want good action oriented, like serial story told television in the animated format, you just kind of cave and are like, okay, it's time to go to Japan.
Time to go to Japan.
Yeah.
And Japan is doing it right in so many ways. And like we've talked about this before on the show, and like how like someone said that they think that like anime is kind of going to be like a huge influence on the West and how we create animation, and like just based on like the serial format and like and the way that and like the way it's packaged, produced, blah blah blah. But yeah, which I'm into, and I think that for me, but yeah, it really was the stigma. It was a stigmatized thing to watch anime, which really makes you think about why that is, who created that stigma, who's enabling it, you know. And also like the additional like, am I fetishizing a culture by like getting really obsessed with it, and like, you know, what part of me is obsessed, what part of like I was just doing a lot of like
just digging.
Right.
Yeah.
I do think it's also its
Yeah.
accessibility too was another point that we were talking about. How, you know, there's just volumes upon volumes, libraries of just like one collection. And to deep dive in it is just it's daunting. It's a daunting task. And I think it's significant that you did it during quarantine, that it was all available on HBO Max, that you had that resource and you were able to do that quick dive.
And that's a relatively recent phenomenon, right? Like, you know, if you like, all the Ghibli movies are now available on HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to try to watch all the Ghibli movies as recently as last year or a couple years ago, you would have to pay minimum like $16 per Blu-ray, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Ghibli movies are one of the best distributed one of the best distributed anime studios like in this country, period. You know, like, you're not even talking about stuff like Space Battleship Yamato or Space Runaway Ideon, right? Like shows from the 70s that are amazing and influential, and influential on anime, so which makes them influential on American animation here, but like are totally unavailable. Like you can't really find them. Like Crunchyroll has them sometimes, but a lot of these things are dependent on licenses.
One of the struggles.
Take a lot.
Sorry, Eric.
Cost a lot of money. But yeah, no, I was done.
One of the struggles we had when we were putting together this list of like the 100 greatest sequences of like animated history, and I mean, we could go into this for hours about like what that meant and how we got to the point where we like figured out what that meant. What we basically landed on was stuff that influenced American animation and the American animation market, which includes the Japanese market and every once in a while some stuff from Europe, but very rarely anything from anywhere else. Although we tried to branch out a little bit. One of the things I found really interesting while we were going through this is like Eric and I started talking about streaming services, and the splintering of streaming is really complicated in that like we are all now very mad legitimately as consumers who do not have the money to spend like $10 a month on 8 to 12 different services when cable was significantly cheaper. We're all very mad that we have to spend $8 to $15 a month on 8 to 12 different services. But the thing is, like, we also have access to so much more than we ever even vaguely had access to 20 years ago. So there's this really frustrating thing about this where, you know, I don't want to be like on the side of the streaming services telling myself, but I can get Evangelion and Full Metal Alchemist on the same streaming service. I would have had to buy all those DVDs 20 years ago. Like, the problem obviously is that like the technology companies and the distribution companies are like not really working in favor of the consumer because, shocker, nobody really cares about the people who give them the money. They care about the money they make. The people who give it to them, irrelevant. Anyway, we went pretty far down this rabbit hole a couple times, and it's kind of a fascinating question. Like, where are we going to end up in terms of the kind of animation we see here? Because for a long time, even some of the most influential anime was impossible to get here. Evangelion being a perfect example.
Yeah, and I mean, even right now, the first Evangelion remake movie, that is out of, I mean, publication. You I mean, can't, and I don't even think you can stream any of those movies in the US right now. So like that just shows you like how much like just licensing shit is still so fucked up when it comes to pretty much anime. And I mean, but you know, it's kind of scary. I don't like for anime to be under or any media to be under one household name, but I know Funimation has been doing a lot of work, spending a lot of cash to try to buy up every license that they can. I mean, it brought Cowboy Bebop back, and definitely brought.
Don't tell Crunchyroll that.
Oh God, yeah, and I mean, especially now with Sony owning them, I'm just now thinking that's going to be
I know that actually.
It's
a shit show too.
Don't say that to Jason DeMarco, founder of Toonami. Don't say that. just keep your damn mouth.
I love that guy. I mean, but like, oh man,
I mean, he's a good guy.
Yeah,
under capitalism, as we all are.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jason,
exactly.
Jason worked with us. Jason worked with us on the 100 Sequences project at Vulture, and one of the things that I really appreciate about Jason, with the full knowledge that he works for Adult Swim, which is a subsidiary of Cartoon Network, which is a subsidiary of Warner or Turner or whatever the hell,
AT&T,
like, you know, some
AT&T.
dude, I don't even know, and I don't care anymore.
AT&T.
Everything is owned by everything. Like, I can't. But one thing that I really, really appreciated about him is whenever we had conversations about animation, he was one, just like wanting to learn more about things he didn't know about, genuinely interested, like genuinely interested in hearing about the kind of stuff that was like historical that he didn't really know about or like had never really thought of, right? And he also, like, he's a fan. He's not a guy who wants to make money off this stuff. He's a fan. He did find a way to make money off this stuff. Like, he lived the capitalist dream, but my God, like, the way he argued for stuff he loved with the full and full knowledge, right? Saying like, I'm biased. I'm not sure if this is actually a thing that should be on this 100, but like, I have to advocate for it. I'm obligated to advocate for this show. It was kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And this isn't the first time we've worked with him on it, but it was cool.
Yeah, he's a real one for sure. Like, I don't know. That was the joy of doing that, like working on that project, is like, you know, it was him and like 19 other people who were also fighting for these things that they loved, right? Like, and that was sort of it. Like, that's the ball game. Like, that's victory in my mind, right?
Yeah.
And it turned out to be pretty successful, I think.
And how pretty much, if I could ask a question, how important do you think Toonami is in getting anime actually recognized? And I mean, in America. I mean,
so important. I think, like, to the extent that we have like a language to talk about anime, that we can kind of, you know, as people who have grown up in the United States, and sort of been exposed to it, Toonami's responsible for so much of that. I think that they were building off of other things, right? Like, they were building off of like the bootleg market in like the 80s. Like, you know, Jason is a little bit older than John and I, and he grew up in a very different kind of like anime sphere when it was more niche. But like, we wouldn't have anime here like it exists without Toonami and Adult Swim. Like, we just wouldn't.
Voon the Goon in the chat definitely agrees with you. They say it created this gen of weebs for sure. Without it, I feel like we wouldn't have anime fans at all.
I think that's absolutely true, right?
Yeah.
And this is something that I think is, look, I work for a magazine that covers books, and I get real nerdy about this stuff. So feel free to stop me if I get a little too in the weeds. We don't think, I think for the first time in my 30 something odd years on this planet, I heard people who didn't like cover it talking in the media talking about the supply chain during the pandemic, because I don't think they had even ever really thought of the fact that the supply chain is like how capitalism occurs. And I think constantly, because I cover publishers and booksellers and everything in between, librarians, what have you, right? I think constantly about distributors, because how does a book get to a bookseller, a distributor? Same question here, right? How does the product, whatever, Cowboy Bebop by Studio Sunrise and what have you, get to me, a little white kid growing up on Long Island in, the early 2000s? And the answer to that is distribution.
Right.
It goes through all of these layers and all these levels of like, somebody sells the rights to this person who sells the rights to this person. And suddenly Toonami is the brand on the distribution of the product of Cowboy Bebop.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a lot of ways, like, right, and there's a weird conflation of all this stuff, right? Like, down to the fact that the last broadcast of Toonami, voiced by the same person who voiced Spike Spiegel, refers to the end of Cowboy Bebop in the in the last broadcast. It gets tangled, and they know it, right? They know how tangled this shit is. They know, and they kind of enjoyed playing with it.
That's the point, though. That's
absolutely
that goes back to what we were we talked about WandaVision a couple weeks ago, and like it goes back to like it's also tangled for the sake of distribution and pushing the product. Like the reality is that it is unsexy. Like what we consume to us is enjoyable, fun, but if you actually know the inner workings, I was a bookseller for 3 years, and so like I was working with a lot of like I was in the book world. I know a lot about like publishing and like distribution, and I was doing film marketing also. Like I thought I was going to end up doing film publicity as like my career and like film marketing, and I was like, this is like it like destroys the beauty of film for me, because all I'm doing is
I feel you,
creating like press kits to like sell this film for the specific and it's the thing. And I was actually working with an international market. I was working with like for the place I was working with was international stuff, and so I was also trying to sell international work to an American audience in a way that felt digestible enough, and so that there was also this like weird gross part of it. And so like the reality is like as it is, everything is about that. Everything is about how you can sell a product. And like, and you're right, Toonami's the brand. Toonami's the brand that it's like and people don't think about it like this because people just think about the consumption of media, but like the actual like production of media is really, you lose the romance of it.
But it's also kind of the Uber brand, right? Like it's like, you're not going to Toonami because you're super jazzed about Toonami.
Right.
You're going to Toonami because you want to see X, Y, or Z product. But also later on, you realize that Toonami and what Toonami bought and what Toonami distributed extremely shaped your understanding of the world.
Yeah.
And Rivka, you're talking about being a bookseller, which we have to talk about, but like Ingram, nobody knows the company Ingram. Nobody knows who Ingram is. But if you have ever read a book in this country, Ingram has probably gotten you about a third of those, maybe half.
Well, also
maybe
nobody
more
knows.
Than half.
Nobody knows that Ingram also basically was going out of business. Ingram did go out of business. No, yeah, right.
Baker and Taylor.
Baker
and Taylor pulp. Yeah, but we could. That's a rabbit hole.
I was at the tail end of leaving my stop being to be a bookseller around the end, and it was Baker and Taylor basically went on a business, and then everyone was like, "Fuck!" and like all the booksellers were like, "How do we sell anything?" And it was chaos.
Whereas Toonami is it, right? Like there was nothing else from that period that did anything like what Toonami did.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, sure, you
like,
have.
If you remember, if anyone remember, I'm old enough to remember when G4, the channel, number one existed.
All right,
Number
now we're
two
talking.
was called
Yep. Yep.
it was first called Tech TV
Yep.
instead of
Tech TV, baby.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Screensavers.
But they had like an anime block similar to
Yeah.
Toonami, which they
Mhm.
clearly ripped off Toonami.
So many did, and I mean,
Yeah.
so did Stars.
Right.
MTV also did their own original animation block, but
Yep.
you know that was heavily inspired by anime stuff, and that shit was cool, but obviously never hit the same like heights.
Yeah. What I appreciate about an entity like Toonami and Adult Swim is that they, especially in the like, probably not so much now, but like in the early days, they were definitely like, I get the sense that they were this like weird silo of Cartoon Network, like that, like no one was like watching what they were doing, so they could kind of like just do whatever the fuck they wanted to do, and so like they had a budget and a few people who were really into anime, like Jason and like others, and then they just licensed some stuff. You know, they pick their targets, I think really well, and like that's a testament to just like a few individual people's like really good taste.
Yeah.
And like that kicked off a lot more stuff.
So I guess something that I'm wondering is like, is this like a double-edged sword about the accessibility part of what we used as, you know, HBO Max was the jumping point into this conversation, and I think this relates to what Voon the Goon is saying in the chat. They said, also, can we discuss the market boom for nerd merch in public spaces? Went to the mall for the first time this year, and there were 3 stores selling that stuff, whereas when we were younger, there was nothing. So, you know, having it under this huge umbrella company, making it accessible, because everyone wants to watch The Mandalorian. What if there's like, okay, now there's a bunch of like X-Men animation in there. Okay, everyone wants to watch like the Snyder Cut. Okay, now there's a bunch of anime within the HBO Max. It's like you come in here for one thing, and then you can easily get sucked into another. The double-edged sword is that, like, it's this huge umbrella company, and they're going to own everything.
Yeah, I mean, so what we're saying is Hot Topic wasn't the only store that we went into when we were younger.
Well,
because
Well, Hot Topic when we were younger didn't. So I went into Hot Topic recently. If you see on the chat, I'm Frick Playson. But the play on Dick Grayson. Anyway, so I went into Hot Topic recently and Spencer's because I was bored and I was at the mall. I was in the suburbs. And I was like, oh, it'd be fun if I just like, I was like, what if I did it, you know? And so I went in a Hot Topic and I was like, what the fuck? It's all anime. It's all also like all the music shirts. I mean, like, I understand Hot Topic is like Hot Topic. They're meant to like adapt to popular counterculture.
Yeah.
I get it. But it was really fascinating. And then I went to Spencer's and there was all anime, like a bunch of like yeah, and I actually bought a Naruto shirt for my friend, like for their birthday. Like, and I was like, this is sick. Like, cool.
I mean, we aren't even talking about
like,
TikTok, you know, and how TikTok is affecting all of that sort of merchandising as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And it's also like, it's just, but it's funny. Someone said Hot Topic went from goth to nerd Disney. And it's like Hot Topic, Hot Topic was like scene. It was like scene/goth, and it was more for the aesthetics. Yeah. And Invader Zim. Yeah. And like,
I mean,
right.
Invader Zim is the connecting. The Invader Zim is the missing link there, right?
I'm gonna be no fun in this conversation at all.
Well,
no fun.
Invader Zim appealed to the emo, scenester, goth,
MySpace user
fandom, cartoon. Serves as an entry point for Hot Topic to get into some of this other types of like, you know, merchandising. I'm saying Hot Topic, but it can be like any other similar store, Spencer's or any of the other chains out there.
Yeah.
You know,
crazy.
So the larger point of the double-edged sword, like I'm terrified. I don't know, like, you know, I worry that, like, you know, right now there are anywhere between like 7 and 8 services that we can call like major streaming services, right? They all have animation to some degree. they're all investing because like that's how you get a younger audiences hooked. That's how you get their parents to pay for the subscription. Within a few years, that number is going to shrink. Like huge companies are going to consolidate. They're these like streaming services are going to shrink into it's going to go from 7 or 8 to like 3 to 4 major ones, and then there might be niche ones like High Dive, like Crunchyroll. Like I see some of the niche anime stuff as like continue and other interests like Shudder like continuing to exist.
Yeah.
But like everything else, like who, I don't know, like how, like I can't trust that AT&T is going to budget for this stuff for as long as they are.
So
I can't trust that Disney is ever going to invest money in anime. Right?
So just take the blue pill like a good boy and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like I don't see what the problem is. Like your overlords will give you anything you want as long as you don't complain.
Well,
so why don't you just not complain?
Look, I don't want to speak in favor of Disney here, right? But oh man, look, this is a first for me. But like, I mean,
you simp for Disney though.
No,
like
look, not in this way. Not in terms of how they actually produce shit.
Okay.
But for so long, weren't they the publisher of all these Studio Ghibli movies, like overseas, pretty much to America? That's the only thing that makes me think that they see somewhat value. But like
we have John Lasseter to thank for that.
Oh fuck him, man.
Fuck.
Fuck yeah. I mean, you're right, but like, goddamn, I don't know. I mean, just hear that name, and it's like Kill Bill sirens go off. So
there are way worse Johns in animations. Speaking as a John myself, can confirm worse Johns than Lasseter.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I mean, there are.
At the risk of sounding like too like overly glib, there, I think that Disney probably saw like a business opportunity, like a very clear business opportunity to put out all these Studio Ghibli movies from the greatest anime director of all time. But they let that go. Like they kind of like there's a reason that G Kids is doing it now, and they stopped. Like I think that that's, and I don't. It's debatable on whether or not they were like responsible stewards of those movies, and I don't think and again like they let that lapse. I don't think that I think that they focus more on like original Disney stuff that they can own.
Well,
they would rather buy Studio Ghibli outright or buy Pixar outright.
I mean, I guess it's the thing of like, how much that Marvel and both Marvel and Star Wars changed the course of just the industry in general. Just of like, beforehand, I mean, I really like Tron as a series. I really like Tron Uprising. I mean, honestly think that's maybe one of the like better animated series of like the last like 15 years.
Wow.
That just never got a chance. But like, that all ended because, I mean, pretty much Disney was like, oh, we don't need that shit anymore. We don't need to like try to sell Tron to like young boys anymore. We got fucking Captain America. Holy shit. Let's go.
Okay. Yeah. Good comment in the chat here from Ty Ice T. Have to think about the fact that they kind of whitewashed those movies by recasting all the voices for white actors. For example, Dakota Fanning for the Totoro lead.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, those are extremely white ass movies.
I will say that it's really hard not to expect that to happen regardless, because what you're talking about in a lot of animation in the US is, especially in films, is if it's not Disney, nobody knows what it is, right? Like nobody knows what the brand is. So, and Pixar now, but only in the past 20 years.
Yeah. A24 still gets
so
an
what
eye
you do
roll.
is you try to So you're trying to drag people in based on the names of the people involved in the project. If I have thought about this recently because I was thinking about The Last Unicorn. I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago to talk about The Last Unicorn, and The Last Unicorn is like, if you go back and look at that movie, the cast is absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Have any of you thought about the cast of that movie recently? Mia Farrow, Jeff Bridges, Christopher Lee, like, and that's just like 3 people off the top of my head. Like Richard Boone, who was the star of Have Gun Will Travel, which like I know nobody in our generation cares about, but was the first anti-hero on television ever, like literally ever.
Right, but if you have a stacked
Renee
cast like that today in this time and age, it's like it's a good sign that that movie's gonna suck ass. Like Contagion is a good example, you know.
I think that's a coin toss, though. Like, look at your. I don't know. I mean, it really depends on how you feel about the Ghibli redubs or the Ghibli like, and that's people have complicated feelings about those. Like, some people really love the redubs of Ghibli. Some people really hate the redubs of Ghibli. Yeah. Some people like both dubs. I do think you're right with the American animation in particular. It's like a gearing toward that, but it also depends on where it's made, right? Like, did any of you see Wolfwalkers? Because Sean Bean in that cast did not make me worry one bit.
Wolfwalkers.
It's
I love Sean Bean, and
it's worth a watch.
It's just an excellent comment out of context. Also, Voon the Goon, thank you so much for subscribing.
Okay. I've seen this before, but I haven't watched it.
It's really good.
It's very worth watching, and I'm gonna be one of those really obnoxious people on Twitter if something else wins the Oscar.
It's the movie that should win.
It's clearly the best movie in the running, and like I say that with full respect for what Pixar did with Soul. Like it's an outrageously remarkable movie.
Soul is. I could go into that another day. But...
What year was it that a Pixar movie won when it definitely should have been another studio? And I can't because this has happened multiple times, but I can't remember what.
Was it the year that the year that Your Name lost? Because that's a
which
infuriating year.
Yeah. But I mean, there was another one too that I just. Anytime there is like a Disney movie and running, I just put my hands up because I remember all those interviews a couple years back of being like, so what do you guys vote for when it comes to animated movies? Well, my grandkids really loved like Finding Nemo.
I love those interviews because they just take the fucking mask off.
Yeah,
right?
just
it's
like what's wrong with that?
It never has a case been better made to replace everybody in Hollywood.
Yeah, like this shit is over.
Burn it down.
Burn it down.
You guys have no care. You guys have no care for this art form, yet you want to so badly say what is best.
That's so annoying. I can't.
Well, can we talk about industry plants? And I don't know, and I'm trying to think about it in the context of what we're talking about, but it's like a trend of movies, and it just feels like it's factory made, but there is a lot of artistic merit to it. It's like a trend would be like the white lesbian movie that came out every time after Portrait of Lady on Fire, or what are some other things like that? There's talk on TikTok right now of this band that's an industry plant that's very much like the government's out to get you, everyone deserves birth control, and they have like all of these like lyrics that are just like hitting up on trends that are talking about things. Do you feel like the way that branding and marketing is happening is negatively affecting the way that artistic decisions are made?
Yes. I literally run a branding agency that specifically goes against everything that industry plants are made for. Like, everything I believe in is like to destroy and dismantle this idea that you have to tokenize an identity in order to make it interesting. And you have to tokenize, commodify, and capitalize on, like, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, but like it's interesting you say that. I actually remember what movie you're talking about, Kurt. After Portrait of a Lady on Fire, there was another movie that was like extremely similar, and it like had a very similar trailer
Right.
too.
And
And I was
someone
like, why
mentioned
the
it in
fuck?
my chat this morning and was just like, this movie was beautiful. And I was just like, well, it felt like an industry plan for me. I never really gave it its merit. But they were like, it was really great. It was a good time.
Are we going to talk about new Disney movies yet?
Let's do it.
No,
Let's start.
Identity was a mistake. The whole concept. And let me be real, like white men are the people who created Identity, so like let's go at the people that deserve it. Like
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, race was created to create a caste system and weaponize people who based on like a simple thing, as in their color of their skin, blah 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 blah. But identity politics has become really twisted. Like the people who coined identity politics were Black feminists in the 70s. And the way they talked about it was like, your identity is like, this is a thing that, this is your relationship to like violence, basically. Like how it, versus now the way we're talking about it is like, if I slap all these identities on and I show you how oppressed I am and show you how marginalized I can be, that makes me interesting, and potentially I can make money off this now. And it's like it goes in these, yeah.
Somebody, look, like I was born a white AFAB, like AMAB, but I'm not even good at the I'm gonna pull back. I think everything eventually becomes commodified in a culture that cares only about commodities.
Yes.
And I think like as much as you want to care about identity in a way that does not involve it being sold or being proposed as something possible to sell, that is what's going to happen in our culture, because our culture is geared specifically toward identifying, labeling, and selling.
Yes.
And like to move this away from personal identity and back to something a little bit more general, Pitchfork Media is a great example of this. You are talking about I am talking about a website that was created entirely to not only catalog a subculture, but to really ferment it, right? And now it's owned by Condé Nast, because eventually someone is going to figure out how to buy and sell the thing that you are both cataloging and fermenting. Yeah. And it's and I don't want to go on a Marxist rant, because nobody needs me to go on a Marxist rant here.
Please do. That's my point.
I thought
no, I want to ask y'all weird questions instead of doing that. Like, but I do think it's worth noting, which is that like eventually, like when someone tells you that your identity has to be a brand for it to be legitimate and for you to be able to make your life worthwhile, that worthwhile, of course, being under capitalism, the little, invisible spot that they don't fill in for you there, like everything kind of goes to hell. Yeah. Because you become a servant of the things that want you to think you're being an individual for the sake of their money in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's recently my dad said to my parents are pretty homophobic, and they're like not into the fact that I'm queer. But we were they were having rest. They still love me and want me around all the time. It makes no sense. Immigrant parent things. I don't know. But my dad was telling my mom, he was like, obviously misgendering me, basically saying that I like am benefiting from my queerness if I'm now a business owner, because I'm now my mom was like, well, you're a woman-owned business and and then I was like, my dad was like, also an LGBTQ owned business. And so now they're slightly more okay with my queerness, because it actually might benefit me, because people want to tokenize queer people for their benefit. and I was like, my brain is like going into like so many directions. And then I was like,
no.
oh, so do you want me? It was crazy. And I was like, so do you want to be my partner? And they're like, no. And I'm laughing because it was so insane. I was
God.
like, so you're gonna say like you're moral, because their whole thing was always like, we're worried about you because you might not get a job in the future if you write they them on your Twitter bio, right?
Mhm.
And oh no, we lost John.
Okay, John's back. John's
We're
back.
back.
All right.
But like the irony is like they were so worried about that, and now it's like it's so like to be like a queer business person is like now you get more like it's so fucked. It's all backwards. And my belief in that is like we've lost context and historical understanding of what people have had to go through in order to get to the place we're at. And now things like TikTok, things like TikTok, Instagram, whatever, branding websites basically have basically created identity as a sole marketing like marker.
Well,
And as artists and content creators, we all like internalize that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eric, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, because like it's also created like what you could probably call like a simulacra, right? Where like you are, because you have attached a label to this thing, it has obscured the fact that this thing was arrived at through struggle, right?
Yep.
It has obscured the fact that like actually LGBTQ owned businesses have been discriminated against for decades.
Right.
Black owned businesses have been discriminated against for decades.
Exactly.
Right. Like it obscures these things, and it obscures that history, and it also probably obscures it obscures bigotry that exists now. Right. Like it obscures any struggle that you're going to go through now that other owners in a similar situation are going through now. And it allows for people who are bigoted, like, you know, or people who are well-meaning but hold bigoted ideas, you know, like your parents might hold. Like it allows them to sort of glom onto that.
Yeah,
that's fucked up. I have no answer for that. It's just fucked.
It's just fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
It's people have I truly think it all comes back to like this historical misunderstanding, and that's why I think actually shows like Watchmen, which are historically rooted and actually talk about something that a lot of people didn't know about, like the Tulsa Massacre. Like a lot of people were like, wow, I actually didn't know about this piece of history. And then does a really good job bringing into modern day like racism and anti-blackness and what's it called, like slave patrols, the police, but like it's the thing is that I'm constantly baffled by, especially when I'm like on TikTok and watching like people with their identities and like, you know, everything. It's like yeah, identity, like John, to your point, I think about, okay, so Michel Foucault, I hate to bring him up, but Michel Foucault.
Let's go. Let's do it, baby. Let's get Foucaultian right now.
Let's get in it. Praxis. Well, the thing is with Foucault is that he was a white gay man, but he wanted to believe that identity didn't matter. And he was like, we don't need identity. We can live in a world where we do our thing and we are who we are, and that's that. And it's like, yes, you as a white gay man who passes in the world as in the way that you do can do that. You don't need, like, you don't, there's nothing about you that's gonna make anybody there's nothing about you that's like controversial in any way. And so like physically, you know, how you move through the world. And so his whole thing was like erase identity, right? And that's why like a lot of times when identity politics became a thing, it was less about being like, let me flash my identity, and more about let me create like a legitimate like analysis about why my identity matters in relation to white supremacy. And the thing is with how we're navigating identity now is that, as you said, we live in a society where everything is a commodity. And so we've managed to package our identities. And it's totally ruptured any sense of historical context, because like, and going back to what you said, Eric, like we somehow like we're like doing this backwards logic thing where it's kind of like the what's it called, affirmative action. Like people get upset with affirmative action because they're like, well, why are these people getting opportunities? It's like because they never fucking did.
Right.
Yeah,
They
so
never fucking did.
Be
affirmative
fair to-
action is the argument. Right.
To be fair to Foucault, he did look like a dick. So if you
He
continue to
Did
walk
look like a
away
dick.
looking like a dick, people are going to treat you like a dick. And I don't just mean that as in like, he looked like an asshole. He literally looked like a penis.
A penis.
So like
He had a
there's-
bald
there's a
head.
real-
Yeah.
All right, I'm tooling around, but like tooling around. But honestly, like I think this is a conversation that's really sort of difficult to have, but worth having. Like the friends of mine who are not white who watched Soul have very different perspectives, especially if they are black, on Soul than the white folks I know who love jazz and love hip hop, who really want you to know that Soul was a perfect movie.
It
And like,
wasn't.
look, like
This is
I
La La
think
Land
it's
over
fair.
again, all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's genuinely fair to say I appreciate jazz, I appreciate animation. I have never experienced life as a black man. I'm gonna step out on the opinion here and listen to other folks' perspectives with the full knowledge that, like, whether identity is a mistake or not, we can't do shit about it because identity has been used to suppress people for thousands of years. Like, and like, I can give you my idea of how I feel about it as a movie, but ultimately, like, the context is more important than that. I don't think we have these conversations just like open and like there's always someone has something they are upset about instead, and the anger is legit. Like, I am never going to tell someone who has had a harder time in their life to be not upset.
Mhm.
Like, but I do think there's this sort of ultimately only one person is winning, right? And it's Jeff Bezos. Like, that's it. That's who's winning here. So what are we going to do about it?
Jeff Bezos comes out and he's like, hey, I have anxiety. I'm not winning.
Speaking of people who
God.
look like a penis,
It's-
I used
Yeah,
to,
I look like a penis.
We should be careful because
Oh, no,
Jeff
I meant
Bezos,
Jeff Bezos.
does own Twitch. We might just get canned right now.
Yeah, I mean,
so while we're on
They
the
made
way
a
to
penis joke. They made a penis joke. Like,
while
If
we're
he
on the
doesn't,
way
it
to
might
getting
be on.
canned by while we're on the way to getting canned by Lex Luthor, I have a story, which is that I used to go. I used to when I used to cover these like really, really high profile, like extremely expensive like gala events for publishing back when, you know, those existed. They still kind of exist, but like not really. I would play a game called JBJB, which is he just bald or is he Jeff Bezos? I'd walk around the, like, you know, Museum of Natural History at the gala for whatever very expensive nonprofit, and I would just sort of quietly call out at the bald people in front of me, Jeff. I've never found Jeff Bezos in that game. Like, I've always lost, or maybe I've always won. It depends on your perspective.
Yeah, that's because Jeff Bezos
but
doesn't
it's
go to the Natural History Museum. He goes to the gym to get yoked.
Yeah, he's getting huge. Exactly. You're right.
Huge. Lex Luthor was definitely the right analogy for you.
yeah.
that was
Oh
Yeah.
shit! What did I just come back to?
We're talking
right.
Daddy Bezos,
Guy who
Bezos
owns
bucks.
Daddy
Oh,
Bezos,
okay.
yes.
I lost my mind. Is what you're coming back to.
Oh shit!
John.
We-
Weren't you going to ask us questions or something, or you're going to have a prompt for us?
Yeah, what was the prompt?
One.
Let's go, John.
I have one prompt question. And I would love to hear folks' ideas in the chat too. Like, this is a infinitely explorable idea. I think I could be wrong. But my thought on this is this: what is a piece of like genre-y fiction of some kind, like some, you know, that isn't stereotypically nerdy, like isn't necessarily in a nerddom, you would like to put another type of nerddom on top of? So let me give you an example that is not my actual example, but can like illustrate this, right? Like, what if Godfather took place under the ocean in 2045? Like that's kind of the idea that I'm going with here.
Cross genre.
So like if you could take right, cross genre, but like taking a genre that is deliberately not what we would consider nerdy, right? Not anime, not comic book, not like, but just like a genre, and fold a nerdy genre on top of it. What would you do?
I mean,
And I mean this in terms of like take a classic property that you love and go hog wild with it. Like there's no repercussions here.
I can go first. I think it'll kind of be like breaking the rules of what you're saying. But it would be Blade Runner. Take everything about Blade Runner, but get rid of all the villainization of Eastern Asian people.
Interesting.
Like
it's not quite like, under my rules, but I think it's a more interesting concept.
I think like I love everything about Blade Runner, but like let's throw it somewhere else. Like why does it always have to be this idea of futuristic where it's like, oh, Japan, it's like the Eastern Asian people are like the villains of this story, and like that's what always weirded me out about that story. And then I only recently got into it like because I love Harrison Ford, and then I started watching the movie. I really like Philip K. Dick stuff, but that's the thing that always weirded me out about it. I was just like, I didn't understand that aspect of this and in this genre. So that would be mine.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can go, Eric. It's cool. It's cool.
Sorry. I wonder.
No. I'm sorry.
I wonder how much of that is like almost like a post-war. How much of that is like locked into like post-war / like because there was like a like in the decades before World War II there was like yellow fever, like already that existed beforehand. In the decades during in the time during World War II there was obvious war propaganda. In the decades after there was like a different kind of yellow fever, right? Like this idea that like everything is made in China or like every like Sony is like kind of eating up American technology and industry in like a different kind of way. I wonder, and I actually don't know a ton about Blade Runner. The last time I watched the movie was many years ago, and I did not see the sequel, which I want to see, but I haven't seen it. But I'm curious how much that those like that like segment of discrimination and ideology like carried into Blade Runner. I don't know.
I would say that it more so is in the background of Blade Runner, in terms of the setting and what really they do talk about that the bigger corporations that are Japanese based have pretty much taken over, but that's not, even then the movie doesn't really go through with that because the main villain is
it's what
thing also about Blade Runner is that there isn't really a main villain per se. But I mean even him, I think he's a white guy. Yeah, and I mean it doesn't go full way, but it definitely has some things of the era of
it's the world that's built in, right?
Yeah, I mean
I would say that's because
it's so much of economic anxiety.
Yeah, well, also because of it's a perception that Japanese like technology is much more advanced than ours, and so the way that like these like Blade Runner, also Altered Carbon was really set in this sort of like Japan, Tokyo, like like kind of city where everything is super advanced. Like I think that's more of like that's where it's coming from. It's this like idea that like Tokyo is the city with like that's just always going to be 10 times more advanced than any other city. Like that's it's like especially in the West.
So
Yeah.
I could be completely off base here, but am I remembering incorrectly? I thought Blade Runner was based on, like, I thought the culture in the Asian culture in Blade Runner was primarily based on China. I did not think it was. I thought it was Chinese. I didn't think it was Japanese. Am I totally off base?
No, it's pretty much Japanese. I mean, they even say in the original cut that the language that a lot of the people in California are speaking is like a chopped up mix between like Japanese and also I think Spanish.
It's like Tokyo. Like the way that everything is set up is like this like kind of like it's not Tokyo. But before we get hung up on this,
I didn't want to like virtual signal with all of this, but I wanted to say like a good version of that would be like The Fifth Element, where I got everything I wanted out of it without it being like overtly racist, except for like, I don't know. And to lighten things up, I poop my pee-pee pants in the chat says, to answer your question, John, the genre is sports, but make it gay.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, because I'm trying to understand your question a little bit better, John. So like,
I mean, I can just give you an example. I can give you
your example. Give me your example.
All right, fine. I want The Sopranos to be a space western. Make a space western Sopranos right now. Where is my fucking space western Sopranos? That isn't even my answer, but this is an example of what I'm talking about.
It's Deep
But
Space
watch
Nine.
the shit out of a Sopranos space western.
True.
But that's not what I want. I want Tony Soprano, the weird head ridge. Like, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and anyway, so that's sort of what I'm talking about.
So you're taking like a major Sopranos is not
doesn't
necessarily
have to be.
No. Okay.
Doesn't have to be. So
okay,
like for me, my answer is I want the book, but most importantly, the 1990 ABC miniseries adaptation of Lonesome Dove, featuring Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Duvall, and also Danny Glover and Diane Lane and Steve Buscemi, and just like an absolutely ridiculous cast, but which has been completely forgotten. I want it with cyborgs. Fuck that terrible Westworld show. Like I want an actual. I want it done right. I want a good Western turn into a cyborg show. So that is my example.
John,
it is not
you should watch the Justice League Unlimited 2-parter.
Yes.
The Once and Future Thing.
Yes.
Parts 1 and 2, where they're in a Western and it is sci-fi and there are like definitely cyborgs. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And Batman Beyond is also
Jonah Hex.
Jonah Hex.
That's a great other point. Where is my Legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table as a like really as like an FMA style anime? Like where is my Full Metal Alchemist style, like Thomas Mallory's Mort d'Arthur?
Mm-hmm.
These are the questions I have. Why hasn't, if everything is sellable, why hasn't everything made exactly the way that I would buy?
I mean, I definitely want like more sci-fi Western animation. Like I pretty much so there's a lot. My favorite style of comic books and graphic novels is sci-fi Western fantasy. So like East of West and like Six Gun, like stuff like that. But like I don't know about you guys, but I don't think there's enough of sci-fi or Western animation, period. But like I'm interested in that. But I'm like, okay, so if I were to take like what's a show that I like? But see, I don't like a lot of mainstream stuff. So I'm trying to
be
think.
niche about it.
Not to sound like a dickwad.
Yeah, there's no that's not the prompt.
No, but it's kind of like, okay, all right. Actually, someone else go. I'm gonna keep thinking.
Just have fun.
I want Haikyuu, volleyball, sports anime, but like make the
Dead or
sport
alive.
Blitzball. Make the sport Blitzball from
Blitzball.
Final Fantasy X.
Yes.
Like I want Blitzball is the best part of Final Fantasy X.
Unbelievable.
The
So good.
the game sucked. Like the mini game for Blitzball was terrible, but the concept of Blitzball, like the structure of the game
Mhm.
and the sphere, like underwater thing that you played in was fucking awesome. And all I want is just a sports anime
Yeah,
of Blitzball. That's it. That's mine.
that would be dope.
Blitzball.
Hmm.
I just want one thing. I just want an anime about the Besaid brawlers or whatever their team name was. I think that would rule.
All
Okay.
right. Tobias, I think you're up.
All right, Tobias, go.
I was gonna say, I don't know. I feel like this has already been made for me, so I'll just say, I think Looper really
Ooh.
captures
Mhm.
what I want. I just want a really good noir, and then have that be mixed with sci-fi. It also comes with time travel too, so just that already hit. The only thing that thing is missing is more Paul Dano. It needed to have 20 minutes more Paul Dano
I
being
think-
like a scumbag.
I think I have inadequately explained this question. I do not mean
Or
like
you're saying
how
that
do
we
you,
all
how do
did
you
it
make
wrong.
the perfect.
Yeah, I think that's what he's really saying.
No, I
haven't
mean
gone yet.
literally like what I mean is literally pick a great thing that you love that you think is
Okay.
perfect as is.
Okay.
Mhm.
But if you could, as some perverse, like bizarre director, recut it or remaster it to make it something different but the same, you would. So again, for me, I want at the end of Lonesome Dove when Robert Duvall's character is dying because he got shot, I want Tommy Lee Jones's character to reveal that he was a cyborg the whole time. I want Robert Duvall's character to say, no, I will not become a cyborg. I will die instead of becoming a cyborg, and have it become a really complicated metaphor about... Anyway, I could be...
Mhm. The thing about
describing
your
this wrong, too.
examples is that like it feels like there's so many things that are
you've thought-
derivative of it, because
Alright,
like even in
yeah.
the chat
And I
someone
feel like
said Mando is a
you've thought
sci-fi
about
western.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've known John for a long time, and he's talked a lot about Lonesome Dove for a long time.
feel like
This is
you've
coming
been
from a very
ruminating.
particular place. I feel like
It came to me today. Like this is not that like ruminated a thing. I just like I genuinely wanted like I wanted to hear if somebody could just like throw a total wrench in something they
Okay.
deeply love and think is perfect and don't really want to be something else, what they would do. Here like The Sopranos as a space western was sort of another example for me. Or like I don't know, like the Wire under the ocean, or like pick go
actually-
wild, like
I
have fun.
actually think, and it might not be that wild, but if you were gonna set Tony Soprano as like the final boss of The Wire, like if you were gonna replace everything that happened in The Wire season 5 with like one of the episodes of The Sopranos where the task force that's going against organized crime in Baltimore has suddenly targeted Tony Soprano, that would fucking rule. Like that would be one of the greatest crime shows of all time, because you would get the best of both worlds, and you get two shows where nobody wins ever.
Where you're going there, and that made me think that if all of my favorite superhero shows, so all of my favorite and I admit I really like Netflix Marvel stuff, so like let's say all of my favorite Daredevil, Punisher, they all ended with like 3 episodes of them in trauma recovery. I'd be happy.
That's a
Processing
good
their trauma.
that's a that's a good way of thinking about this. I just had the idea of like, what if
DC tried
if
to do that, by
every
the way, and they did
character
it pretty
in
bad.
They did. It was not good.
It was not good.
if anybody's hating on Arrow here, we're gonna get into a fight.
No.
Oh, Arrowverse.
Um,
Arrowverse stand right here. I watch all the CW shows. Who's excited about Kung Fu coming out tomorrow?
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be good. Everything I've heard about Kung Fu
Absolutely.
is good. Like,
Absolutely not.
Me too.
what just came through my head is like, what if a universe was split down the middle absolutely arbitrarily in terms of like good or evil in the style of Saga?
Mm.
So like,
Yeah.
have
Okay.
any of you read Saga?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Like, what if they just redid Justice League Unlimited?
Mhm.
Half the superheroes are now on like one species side, and the other superheroes are on another species side. Same thing with the supervillains. So like, even though like they're still all good or all evil depending on how we're looking at it from a Dungeons and Dragons alignment spectrum, like they have a complicating factor, which is half of them have an allegiance to one planet and half of them have an allegiance to another, regardless of whether or not they're good or evil.
Sounds
That's what I
busy.
want. Let's
give
really
that a fucking
complicate
Emmy.
this
That
shit.
sounds amazing.
wait, this actually sounds like an anime show called Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Yeah,
And done.
yeah, actually.
Anime did it
which
first.
I love. Legend of the Galactic Heroes is amazing, and I wish that it's to bring it back to our earlier conversation about distribution. I just want to note that the full Blu-ray box set of Legend of the Galactic Heroes costs $800.
Yes.
Wow,
Yes, it
It's
does.
insane.
It's
Insane.
fucking crazy.
that's insane.
There's no reason. There's
Well-
no reason
Yeah.
for that to be the case, but it is.
Listen, I'm so happy that you all have been took the time out of your days to come by and hang out with us. You know, I'd love to do one last question before we cap off for the night. Don't want to take up too much of your time. Does that sound cool? All right.
Goodbye, me.
So let's all go around and we're going to talk about one piece of content that we're really excited about and one thing that we're dreading. And the reason I'm asking this question is because someone in the chat said, and I Poop My Pee Pants says, they're about to make a Powerpuff Girls live action, so we'll see how that goes. So that's going to be my thing that I'm dreading. I'm dreading how that's going to turn out.
I don't want that. Why are they doing that?
I have no
Why
idea.
are they doing that?
So
I hate them for that.
one thing that you're excited about, one thing that you're dreading. Okay, who wants to go first?
Okay.
I'll go first
Okay.
because we all know the answer.
Do we?
Invincible.
Invincible.
Okay. All right.
Come on. It's
Okay.
so good. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. It's like the combination of like anti-superhero shit, ironic stuff, but still like has that sweet like there's still some like hope in it. So and the cast is fucking awesome. It's got that sweet Amazon money. Jeff Bezos. Joking. Hate that penis man. What I'm dreading, I guess I'm dreading the Powerpuff Girls live action. So
There you go.
that's what
All
I'm
right.
dreading.
I'll go next because I'm dreading something other than the Powerpuff Girls live action, although obviously I am dreading it. What I'm excited about is nothing. Honestly, I'm tired of content. Do you see these bookshelves? I have enough. I don't need anything else. You know what I'm excited about? I'm excited to finally crack open
A cold one.
this series. Since we were
Oh.
talking about manga earlier, this is Takahiko Inoue's Vagabond. My friend gave me the first 12 volumes. They are absolutely ridiculously beautiful. I have never read them. They are old. They're not coming out anytime soon. I'm excited to go back to things that already exist. I'm very excited about that. What I am dreading is the forthcoming 2-season order of an HBO. No. That's for Clone High. I am worried about the standalone series about Velma Dinkley from Scooby-Doo, voiced by Mindy Kaling. I don't need it.
Oh.
I don't
That's a
want to
good
watch
one.
this show. I don't know why this show exists. I don't know why anybody reboots any Scooby-Doo properties. Like, the Scooby-Doo properties have never been done right in the
Delire
first
that.
place. Yeah, Ellie, do you wanna just wanna say that louder this time?
I guess
My roommate Ellie loves Velma. I don't want this show, and frankly, like, I mean, Mindy Kaling doesn't do much for me anyway, so like, that's
Yeah.
my, but yeah, deeply dreading. If that is HBO Max's idea of like how it's going to make money on animation, I feel like it's going to murder the medium in 2 years. So anyway, next.
I'll go next. Respect to Ty T. Respect to Mindy Kaling. I am most excited for. God, what was I just thinking of? I like just had it. I'm very hyped for the next season of The Witcher. I don't care how
Ooh,
bad
yeah.
The Witcher can be sometimes. I
Mhm.
think it's one of the greatest shows that Netflix has ever made, and I love
Nice.
that entire franchise. It
I
is so much
think-
fun to play.
I think that's
It has,
sadly
like-
true.
It has like such rich lore. Like I could watch any episode of that show and have a great time. I feel like I'm most dreading, like deeply in the core of my soul, the live action Gundam movie that has just been
Ooh.
announced.
Oh no.
I think that's the worst decision. I think that's the worst decision that Hollywood's made in a long time. One of the things that I love about the Gundam series, which I talked about at the beginning of this, is how expansive it is, how weird and off the rails like so many Gundam shows can get,
Mhm.
and how different they are from each other. And there is no possible way. I don't care how good the director of Kong Skull Island was. There's no possible fucking way that he is capable of capturing what I love about this franchise in one live action movie. Like
Yeah.
I just don't. And that's a personal problem for me. I'm gonna have to deal with that. But
Yeah, that movie's gonna make
That's-
so much money.
I'm sure. It's gonna make so much money.
And I mean, I think Brian K. Vaughan has been penning that, and that's what he's been doing with his time away from comics. But I don't have any promise in that director. Also, he's supposedly a scumbag.
There you go.
So I mean, yeah, hopefully, I don't know, hopefully it goes the way of the Akira adaptation and just like, gets almost there and then crumbles every fucking time, which that's what I'm praying for.
Tobias, I guess you're up.
Yeah, yeah, I'm let's see, what am I excited about? I mean, Rivka kind of stole my shit with Invincible, but that's cool, they've always been kind of,
It can
kinda
also be something
stealing.
that's coming out. Doesn't have to be out already.
Okay, it doesn't have to be out already. Nah, fuck it. You know what? I'm not even gonna say it. It's definitely Invincible.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing
It's
Saturday morning? Watch with me.
dude. I watched that shit at like 3 in the morning, like right when it's coming out, like hot
Saturday
off
morning.
those
cartoons,
Amazon
bro.
servers. Yeah, I'm not waiting for shit. Like I'm ruining my life every time I'm watching that shit.
Me too. Saturday morning
Um,
cartoons, though.
I can't do it. I mean eat that shit right then and there. But no, that show is a really great culmination of I mean talent, and I've been following a lot of the artists that are on that project. Like Chris Copeland, a really great artist and really great key. I mean, a really great key. I mean, animation guy. He also worked a lot on the DC movies
Mhm.
that you've I mean watched over the years. But he was on it for supposedly like a couple of episodes, and then I don't know what happened there, but seeing that, and then seeing also Corey Walker, seeing his style seeing his original style being translated, and his character designs being shown, has given me just like the greatest of joy. And also he's back to posting again now, since he deleted his old Blogspot blog, and now he's like, he made a brand new one. So Invincible has already made it back up to me. Just being able to see his drawings again. Yeah. Things I'm not looking forward to, things I'm not excited about. Marvel movies, I don't want them to come back. they can like I think I just like, I follow a lot of action figure Instagram pages and Facebook pages, because I collect that kind of shit. But in the recent months, like, there's been more like Black Widow stuff, and more Shang-Chi merch that is about to come out, and also just seeing Bucky and Winters, fucking Bucky and Falcon stuff too. And I just am like, wow, we really went like a year without like any Marvel movie. What a great year. And horrible in every other way, but like, Jesus, what a time.
I'm sorry we're ending now, because I'm really excited to talk to you about how great it was that we didn't have a single Marvel movie this year.
Hey, like,
you have to do this again.
Welcome back. You're both welcome back.
Kurt loves that shit.
What's the word? I file it. I'm a Marvel
marketed.
file. Yeah, I'll watch the movies, but like, and I'll talk about how like fun they are, but I'm not in love with them. The only reason I bought the Disney Plus account was so I can watch them endlessly. I watch like Thor Ragnarok almost like every 2 weeks. Just because it's like,
I love Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, because it's so predictable. I know what's coming up. I'm so happy when I'm done watching it. I love Taika Waititi, and so it's just like, that's like my retail therapy. I just watch that movie over and over again. But I didn't get to say what I was excited about.
Also...
And that is the Last of Us TV adaptation. That's going to be done by Craig Mazin. I love Chernobyl. I know he's going to make a really fucked up TV show. So I'm really excited about that. What I'm dreading is the Blue Beetle movie. And that's only because I really want to write the Blue Beetle movie.
I'm going to get you to do that.
I know, you tried so hard. I still have a chance.
You could still write something.
I know.
The good news is you could still write the Blue Beetleboard movie.
The Blue Beetleboard movie.
Oh my god.
Have you
Personally, I would love to see you write.
Beetleborg.
Absolutely not, but I know that it exists.
Revisit that TV show, because it has a twist that you don't think. It's about ghosts. It's about possession, and it's on Netflix. So if anyone wants to revisit Beetleborgs, it's there for you. But that show's about ghosts, which is really weird.
If anyone wants to do a co-revisiting of it, look, I've revisited some of my childhood shows. I've revisited Beast Wars. I don't need it. I've learned my lessons from the attempted revisiting, and I'm good. I'm cool. Like, do I want Animorphs to be adapted into an animated series? Of course I do. But am I going to reread the books right now? Absolutely not. I am not going to read those books at all.
I'm very sorry to say, but they recently put out the Beast Wars action figures again, and I like, and
they're great action figures, just a bad show.
The best part of that entire franchise is the toys. Like, that's the truth.
100%. Yeah. Absolutely. Way more thought went into how to make or like transform as a toy than into the entire plot of that show.
Yeah, there's no real plot other than, hey, we got to get that energon, right? Hey, look, we just plopped down on this planet and we just got to get that energon, but we'll find a way to make this into a thing, and then it goes into the transmetals that makes zero sense still.
It's a metaphor for oil. Energon is oil, but it doesn't actually go anywhere far.
No, but it doesn't go anywhere, so it just
yeah, exactly.
Eric, John, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where, if anyone's interested in reading some of your work and finding out more about your projects, where can they visit? Eric, you want to go first?
Yeah. So I'm the anything published on the entertainment section of Observer.com. I am in some way responsible for good or bad. So you can read me there. You can read my writers there. My personal website is ericvilas-boas.com, just my name.com. It's not updated, but I don't know. Maybe there's something on there that will be of interest to nerdy people. You can follow me on Twitter at @E_VB_. And that's it. Thank you.
John, how about you?
Don't read my work. Read Eric's instead.
Easy enough.
Newsletter. Hype the newsletter, you idiot.
Don't read my newsletter. It's a terrible idea. Why would you do that to yourself?
I'm subscribed.
My website is jhmii.com. If you want to get to anything else that I do, it's there. My newsletter is called Tears for Tunes. I'm moving it from Substack to Letter Drop literally as we speak. I've been playing around with it like all day. It's been more than a month since I've sent anything out, but I'm going to do that soon. And I'm on Twitter at JOHNHMAHER.com. That is JOHNHM as in Mary, AHER.com. And why am I saying .com at the end of a Twitter fucking address? This is where I am tonight. It's at John H Maher. If you can't figure that out, it's probably for the best. My content's bad. Read Eric's site.
All right.
horrible.
Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much for watching the show. Nerd Gaze will be back in, I think, about 2 weeks. And we'll talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That show will be over by then, so we'll be talking about that. John, Eric, you're more than welcome to come back on the show anytime you'd like.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, y'all.
It's been so much fun.
Fun to hang out.
This has been fun.
Yes.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.